Okay, Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Guyer, you're an economist, so I want to go and compare and contrast fossil fuels versus green energy in terms of subsidies, in terms of externalities, in terms of benefits. So let's first talk about the cost of subsidies. In your testimony, you said that the subsidies in the U.S. for fossil fuels about $12 billion over 5 years, correct? The Inflation Reduction Act, I think it's over 10 years, over about $400 billion, but a Goldman Sachs study said to be closer to $1.2 trillion. So just comparing that $12 billion versus $1,200 billion worth of costs, sure subsidizing a whole lot more green energy, correct?
According to those numbers, yes.
100 times higher costs. And that's just one piece of legislation. Let's talk about the benefits. I think it's undeniable that fossil fuel is going to power 80% of our economies decades in the future, correct? So when you're powering 80% of the economy, you're paying for air conditioning to allow people to escape the heat. Certainly, China and India are going to use fossil fuels to lift their people out of poverty. Ms. Guyer, do you believe there's any chance whatsoever that India and China are going to stop using fossil fuels?
Nor do I think we will, yes.
Right, zero chance of that, okay? Are you aware of the climate alarmist studies? Their own models show that even if we eliminated all CO2 emissions in the United States, it would have a negligible, less than a degree difference in terms of what their projections say in terms of climate change.
I don't know which models you're referring to. I don't think that's true.
Pardon?
I don't think that's true, but I don't know what particular models you're referring to.
Okay, again.
Well, you have to make
So my point being, okay, we could eliminate all this. We could shoot ourselves in the foot, spend $1.2 trillion, have no impact on climate whatsoever, and still have 80% of our power provided by fossil fuel. I think that's crazy. Now let's talk about externalities, okay? No doubt about it, and I think it'd be nice to be able to figure out some way to price that in. But, the pollution from the extraction of fossil fuels plus the pollution from burning them, you've got to acknowledge that. But there are also externalities to green energy, correct? Here's one right here. This is a photo of a cobalt mine in the Congo. There's child abuse going on here. This is child labor. Is that okay because it's just not occurring in the U.S.? Why are we not accounting for all of the mining that is going to be required to provide the copper, the lithium, the rare earth minerals, the cobalt? Have you studied that cost of externalities? Have the climate alarmists studied that? Are they accounting for whatsoever? Not to mention the impracticality of actually mining enough to produce the number of electric vehicles they're contemplating. Ms. Roth, can you speak to that?
It's very important to be able to take into account all these different costs of mining, and I find it very surprising that people who are against coal mining in the United States are in favor of mineral mining in the Congo.
Because it's happening someplace else.
It's happening
correct?
someplace else, exactly.
Yeah, no, again, I think it's kind of grotesque, pretty arrogant. Dr. Diesel, can you tell me what is the biggest adverse event? What's the major one that you're finding in your studies from fossil fuels?
The strongest evidence is for risks to children, like preterm birth and birth defects.
Okay, so what is the background rate of the birth defects that you're talking about? What's the background rate?
Birth defects are quite rare, but we see an additional increase.
Okay, so I'm asking what's the background rate of a birth defect in hundreds of thousands? What's that background rate?
Well, I can double check on the statistics, but
This is your study.
Yes, about 3% of births have a.
Okay, 3%. What is it then due to, in your studies? How does that increase? What does it go to? Does it go to 5% or 6%, or what is the increase off of that 3%?
Thank you, Senator. In the studies, we find that there's about a 20% increase in risk, which is not to say a 20% increase in number of cases, but there's a 20% greater chance of birth defects in children whose mothers live near oil and
So that means it would go from 3% to 3.6%? Is that, I mean, again, I'm trying to understand your study. It's very easy to play with statistics. It's very easy to scaremonger, which is what climate alarmism is all about. But you have to actually take a look at the reality situation. Again, China and India are not going to stop using fossil fuels, nor are we. So we can continue to spend trillions of dollars and have no impact on any of these things, or we can actually concentrate on the things we can fix. And again, if there's some real problems, living around drilling, that's something we can fix without spending $1.2 trillion. So again, I'm trying to figure out what is the reality situation. What does your study actually show?
Well, in my study and others, we see...
You may answer the question, and then it's Senator Marshall's turn.
Thank you. Yes, we see up to, for another example, another one of my studies, we saw a doubling of risk of childhood leukemia in children whose mothers lived within 2 kilometers of oil and gas sites. And this is consistent across more than 50 epidemiological
Well, I'd like to see your actual data. I don't like the percentages, I want to see the data. Okay, thank you.
Senator Marshall.
Thank you, Chairman, and I'm sorry to pick on you, Dr. Diesel, but I also want to follow up on the studies. I didn't know that.
Hey, before you click on the next video, if y'all could do me a big favor and hit that like button. The algorithm loves it, and so do I, because it helps promote these videos and get the message out about what our government has been doing. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications, because every time I put out a video, you want to know about it, right? Thanks again, and have a good one. See you on the next one. Peace.